Hi, everybody. We're back with part 3 of the early Middle Ages. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We move into May, and we'll go from there. You may have noticed one change. You're right, I got a haircut. I was reminded of that. I needed a haircut it was maybe last Tuesday or Wednesday. I was up collecting aluminum cans up on the highway. For recycling. They're going for about 25 cents a pound now. It pays for the bread that I eat. And someone pulled over and said, "I'm sorry, I see that you have the coronavirus." And I thought, why would they say that? And then it dawned on me that they're looking at my appearance, and I certainly need to get a haircut. And so a friend of mine was kind enough to trim what hair I have, and hopefully I won't be labeled as such in the coming weeks. Anyway, with that, we'll move on. And if you remember, we left off with the estate, the kingdom, the estate, the tribe, and we're moving into that rural setting, but yet we're going to start to see the spawning of some changes in the Middle Ages in our part 3 unit here. Okay? First, we're going to start off with a king in France. His name is King Clovis, 481 to 511 AD. Why is King Clovis so significant? Once again, France, Frankish king. He was young. When he was approximately 15 years old, he became a Christian. He's the first major Christian king in that part of Western Europe. Of course, if you remember Constantine, now we see on the west, we see Clovis emerge as that first Christian king. Several hundred years later, we start to move into now the political front of the Middle Ages. This is very, very significant, guys. Today, you're lucky. This stuff is really, really cool. Okay, I wish we were in person because there's going to be some things that I can firsthand directly account for. But this was just on Jeopardy a few weeks ago, so it's still pertinent, huh? 714, there was a guy in France named Charles Martel. His title was Mayor of the Palace. He was in charge of basically the palace, the kingdom, the estate, huh? While the leaders, the kings, the leaders would go out and fight in battle similar to, you're right, who said that? Who said that? Trent, did you say that? I think he did. Yeah, similar to Alexander the Great. How they went on those charges like Julius Caesar as well. They would then go into battle. Charles Martel said, wait a minute. He questioned, who's the real leader here? I'm home doing the dirty work. That person's basically just a glorified general. So he raises the question, who is in charge? And he starts to ask people that. He starts to ask church authorities. That sets up a predecessor of his, okay? A successor. When Charles Martel died, his son took over, okay? And his name was Pepin. Pepin the Short. On a test, if I would ask you, is Pepin tall or short? Not a trick question. What fruit's an apple pie, huh? He's short. Little guy in stature. Significant down the road. Okay? He assumed that role of the mayor of the palace and expanded it from Charles Martel, saying he's in charge of it all. He's in charge of the military and the kingdom, the estate. Okay? What he did to prove this was he was anointed by the Pope as king. In other words, the Pope recognized the mayor of the palace, recognized Pepin as the true king, not just a general. He was recognized as such. In 768, he died. Uh-oh. Now, who's going to fall in and be in charge of this estate that Pepin created? With that, guys, we're going to stop for 1 second. Okay, catch your breath, put your pencils down. Because if you're watching up to this point, Thank you. I appreciate it. There's people outside in the whole world that are watching this, but some people from class have not been taking their notes and watching the videos. What they've been doing, oh wow, as if I didn't know they could, is they're Googling answers on the tests. That's a bunch of crap. Okay, it doesn't take 10 minutes to watch these videos. Suck it up. Huh? As a result, those of you that are doing and watching this, don't tell anybody else, but each day I'm going to give you a little question that you're only going to find on these videos. So amen, brothers and sisters, good for you that you're watching this. Okay, the question on the test that I'm going to include from this lesson is, what is my favorite animal? Answer, an elk. Right there. An elk is my favorite animal. So when you see on the test, what's Mr. Klein's favorite animal? You're right, elk. So go ahead and write that down right now. Okay. We'll come back to our show here. That's our infomercial. Now, going back. Who is going to fall after Pepin the Short? Of course, it's going to be a relative, none other than his son. His son's name is Charles. You don't know him as Charles. No one in the world knows him as Charles because we all know him as Charlemagne. Charlemagne started his reign in 768. He ruled from 768 to 814. Okay? 46 years Charlemagne ruled. Now, what's interesting about Charlemagne is, we've talked about it with, remember Ramses the Great? All the kids, all long duration. We look at Augustus Caesar. When we see people rule for this long, basically generations, they amass a lot of power. Charlemagne did just that. He's the one that puts France, the Franks, on the map of sorts, proverbially. He's the one that basically is the George Washington of France. Charlemagne is the big, big, big dude in France. Joan of Arc is the patron saint. Unfortunately, this year we won't have time to get to her. I'll try and get in just a little bit of that, like the last day or two that we meet. But Charlemagne is like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson on steroids for the French folk. If you've ever been to Notre Dame, and I was just there a couple years ago with a group of students, outside Notre Dame is a huge, huge bronze statue of Charlemagne riding his steed right on the bank of the Seine in front of Notre Dame. That's how big Charlemagne is this long ago, how he's so revered in France. He put France on the map, 46 years. Okay, what he did to solidify this power is he defeated the Lombards. And if you remember the Lombards in the tribes I gave you before, they ruled in Italy. They were running up and down Italy. And obviously the church there, the Vatican, is afraid of these Germanic tribes. The church, the Pope, because what did the Pope do, guys? Remember, the Pope said Charlemagne's dad's the dude. So Charlemagne wants to kiss up to the church. Christian, they have a tie. He goes and defeats the Lombards in 773 AD. How does he then defeat the other Germanic tribes? He learns from our last unit, the Muslims. It's called baptism by sword. Baptism by sword. Do you remember with the Muslims? You could pay a tax, you could convert, or you die. Well, Charlemagne recognized that swift progression of Islam, and he said, you know what, with Christianity, I'm going to do it my way. He basically said either you get baptized and convert to Christianity, or you die. He doesn't need the tax. By sword means the sword is right there, ready to kill. As a result, the conversion of Christianity through Charlemagne happened in the thousands and thousands. Membership and following in the Catholic Church grew to a large degree because of Charlemagne. As a result, where is he once again? Outside Notre Dame, the big cathedral. Okay, so he's converting 46 years. He's really a powerful dude, okay? When he was gone, he didn't have the mayor of the palace, but he did something else. He broke down into smaller units, governing bodies. He didn't want the power, have somebody back home having all the power of his enterprise, right, the empire, but he divvied up in little quadrants all the lands in his reign. And he called those little divvied up postage stamp plots counties. Have we ever heard of counties before? Looking around, people are sleeping, wake up. Will Menendez, wake up. Counties we have here. Of course, most of you live in the upper county of Missoula. A couple of you are like myself. We're in the Hood and Ravalli County in the lower regions of the state. But the counties are broken up into little political entities. And who runs the counties and takes in the tax for Charlemagne that he establishes? You guessed it, the Count. The Count, like Count Chocula or whatever your cereals are you eat, is in charge of the county, counting the money. Okay? We have county commissioners. We don't call them counts. We call them county commissioners here. And they reported to Charlemagne's people. Okay? And that's how he kind of divvied up the power. Okay? During this time period, we see estates rise through Charlemagne. We also see education rise up. You may not appreciate this, but Charlemagne was not short. Charlemagne, most historians believe, was about 6'6". He had a ruddy face, red hair, stocky build. He was a tough dude. Okay? Big, strong dude. But he couldn't read or write. He was illiterate. And that really ticked him off. He did everything he could to try and learn how to read and write during his lifetime. He just couldn't do it. But he recognized the value, and we start to see education a priority now in this society in Europe through Charlemagne. Okay? Christmas Day, the year 800, all right? Christmas Day, 800. So 14 years before he dies, he is anointed by the Pope, Pope Leo III, as emperor. If you remember, that word emperor is like the exalted one, bigger than king. He is recognized as the true emperor of Europe. That's how big Charlemagne was. Why was the Pope so eager to do that? Because the church is getting money from Charlemagne. It's all about the coin, right? And he defeated the Lombards and saved the Vatican from being taken over by these tribes. So it's like a give and take here. Charlemagne's rewarded by the church called emperor. The church recognized what he's doing by defeating the Lombards, by paying the taxes, and let us never forget baptism by sword. With these multiple conversions taking place because of Charlemagne and his faith, okay, by Pope Leo. By the end of his term, when he passes in 814, Charlemagne's rule and the Franks extends to 3 major territories: Italy, Germany, and France. His empire is huge. Ryan Cooney on the map would show us that huge map, that huge portion of his rule in Europe. Okay? That's ruled by Charlemagne. When he dies, Charlemagne's reign is taken over by his son. His son is very weak, passes away. No one gives him the respect that he wants. And his then territory from his son is passed along to his 3 grandsons. And you know what happens there? His empire's divvied up, divided up 3 ways. So Charlemagne's reign was short and swift, about 100 years of, we see that massive empire ruled by the Emperor Charlemagne, coming from the posturing of Pepin the Short through the extension of Charles Martel, the mayor of the palace. The first Christian, King Clovis. We start to see France start to emerge. Those of you that are in French class should appreciate this, and we're going to next time get into the most feared, the absolute most feared of the tribal entities. I would venture to say that even Charlemagne was afraid of this most feared tribe. The test, my friends, is Wednesday. Start taking the notes diligently. And as always, miss you, love you. Have a great day. Bye.